Renewal Board special session meeting for September 6th, 2022 to order at 8:01 p.m. With that, we've got a bit of business before us. And the first one is elections of officers. The current officers are myself as chair and Cameron Martinez as vice chair. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay, so the first order of business would be to call for officer nominations for the position of chair of the URA board for 2022.
I'll nominate Brent Sheldon as chair.
Second. Okay, a motion is made to nominate Russ Sheldon as chair-elect for 2022. It was seconded. Is there any discussion? Any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Officer elections, nominate a nomination for the vice chair for the URA agency board for 2022. Do I have a nomination for vice chair?
I nominate Cameron Martinez.
I'll second.
Okay, is there any other nominations? There's a motion made and seconded to elect the vice chair for the URA agency board for 2022. Cameron Martinez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion is carried. So we have a chair and vice chair. Thank you. Roll call is a now official process, so
Thank you. Chair Sheldon,
present.
Vice Chair Martinez,
Here.
Commissioner Kendall.
Here.
Commissioner Lenahan,
Here.
Commissioner Papen,
Here.
and Commissioners Page and Smith are both excused this evening.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is our consent agenda. In that is the approval of this special session agenda and the minutes of the November 15th, 2021. Doesn't seem like it's been that long ago since we met, but it has. So those minutes. So I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda of the URA agency on September 6th, 2022. Is there any discussion?
Quick question for Lori. I was not in attendance for that meeting. Should I abstain from voting?
No, even though if you read the minutes through and you didn't have any problems with anything that was stated, or then you are free to vote.
Okay,
For
thank
the
you.
consent agenda.
Okay, so we have a consent agenda. We have a motion. And the second, I call for discussion. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Hearing none opposed, the motion is carried. Okay, public comment. See, we have one person potentially online. Is there anyone else? Is there any public comments for us to?
There was nothing presented prior to the meeting, and that is our new Economic Development Committee members' white.
All right, so we'll move on to new business, which is the resolution before us, which is 2202, which is the negotiating agreement with the Renewal properties, and the fact that we're at a stage where we need to renew that. I think I'll turn it over to Andy. I think he pretty well put it together in his summary. Andy, would you like to add anything to that?
Thank you. Actually, Bill wrote the majority of that. And so I'd like to give credit where it is due. And I also would like to turn it over to him to go over some of these items.
Excellent.
Absolutely. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Urban Renewal Agency Board this evening. Really what we put before you, we consider a fairly straightforward 6-month extension to the existing agreement that we had with Renewal, simply to give them more time to deal with some cost issues on the project. Development costs of different types are not only spiking, but they're very unpredictably spiking in different ways. And they are actively working on very specific costs that by working on them, they want to continue to make the project pencil, basically. Just today, we had two meetings that added up to nearly 2 hours combined, working on 2 specific issues on the property that we're actively working on with them. Number one is the cost and the feasibility of undergrounding the utilities along the Linco along the property, and how to get that done in a cost-effective manner and in a way that maintains and even enhances potentially power service to residents nearby. And then the other one that we met with them on later in the afternoon today has to do with how to deal with some of the soils that were identified as having some contamination due to long past agricultural use on site. So we had our consulting geologist with us on the Zoom call, or the Teams call, along with Rembold and their team and their engineers. And we just kind of began the conversation about, okay, we agree on the science and what the environmental issues are. How do we deal with this in a cost-effective manner? And can we kind of figure out a path forward? So that's what we did today. And they're just actively working on things that's going to take a little bit more time to kind of nail some things down. And they're actively working with us. So this extension basically just allows that to happen. So we can come back to you with more information and get close to and approach a DDA by December.
Does anyone have any questions?
So, I mean, we're gonna be lowered through this, or is it gonna be a monetary issue, you think?
Councilor Kendall, ultimately, what we're trying to do is bring it down and minimize what the cost is going, minimize given the fact that costs are are climbing. Having a little bit of extra time is going to in part allow some of these things to stabilize. Because planning in the middle of it right now is sort of like serving drinks on a plane in the middle of bad turbulence. That's really what it's like.
Yeah.
And we're just hoping that if the flight goes on a little bit longer, things will settle down a little bit. That's a part of it. But yes, ultimately, it's about minimizing costs. As you know, the agency and its charge is to see development happen and help figure out obstacles that would otherwise be a problem for a private developer alone to carry out. And we're about to approach Business Oregon and 2 of their big programs on potential funding assistance for some of these things. If we can't alone get the costs down, we're going to look for additional funding assistance from them. But that's what it boils down to, Councilor Kendall, is cost. That's really hard to nail down.
That's understandable, and at least in where we're at in our economic circumstances. I think there is going to be some favorability there. I foresee the markets are already beginning to soften considerably in the construction side. So it's not an infrastructure project, so that's a little bit different, but that may help us.
You're not getting the sense that, this is a deal breaker, or they're getting stopped on their end as far as moving forward with this project?
Mayor, no. And as a matter of fact, what I've heard, I do chat with and communicate with Callie Bader at Rimbold. Their tenants are chomping at the bit. I mean, there's no backing off on the project. It's just right now they're zeroing in on some costs that if they don't get it nailed down, could be problematic. But they have strong interest, very strong interest in who you've seen committed to the project.
Okay, so any additional discussion before we consider and entertain a motion to approve this extension? Resolution 2202 URA.
Actually, just a quick question, sorry. Will we see another, like draft of their final plan, or does that ultimately go to planning commission and not specifically to the council? 'Cause I know what they had the open house and it was a bit of a messy thing, and I don't know if there's time to have another one at all, because I know they don't have to, but I know people were left kind of with questions unanswered. I just didn't know if we would then see how we had been meeting prior, or if that just goes straight to planning commission at that point.
I can say that I don't think it would necessarily go to planning commission.
Okay.
My thought is, I don't know where we're at. We're in the DD, right?
Not yet.
We're not even to DD yet.
Okay.
So design, development, construction documents, 100%. And we're gonna know what everything's gonna look like.
Okay.
I think we're gonna have plenty of time to preview what it is we're getting. I think
Okay.
that's what you're thinking about. Kim?
Yeah, just, yes.
Okay.
If I understand correctly, you're wanting to know if they would have a second neighborhood meeting as part of the.
Well, just like, it
application.
seemed like they might tweak some of their plans
Yeah.
based on the people that were actually present at the meeting. I know having a second one is a whole other entity, but
Yeah.
it seemed like a lot of people didn't get their questions answered, but also would they tweak their plan based on what was discussed at the meeting, I guess.
Mhm.
I think they seemed kind of surprised of all the things that I guess got brought up once they presented their plan to at the open house.
There will be further public meeting opportunities that Council Sheldon is referring to, and I think we'll just do our best to communicate to the public, the folks who are on that call. It's your opportunity, and it'll be a much better Zoom because I'll be running it. And people could be.
Great. Any additional questions? Okay, if not, we'll go ahead and entertain a motion for the adoption of resolution number 2202-URA.
I move to adopt resolution 2202-URA to enter into an exclusive negotiating agreement for redevelopment of the Glencoe Opportunity Area.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 2202-URA, an exclusive negotiating agreement with Renewal Properties LLC. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Hearing none opposed, motion is carried. Okay, we have no other business before us tonight, unless there's any final comments.
Just real quick, Councilor Sheldon. We were talking earlier today, and this would be a bylaw change to consider, but it may be worth it. I don't want to put the two electeds on the spot here because maybe you're non-committal about going beyond 1 year, but would it make sense to do 2-year appointments? That way, if we only meet one time a year, we're going through the motion of elected someone,
Well, we both have less, well, I guess we both have a full 2-year term remaining.
Probably makes sense.
Yeah, just extend these. Well, I don't know. What were you thinking, Laura? You thinking 4?
No,
I think 2.
I think
two
2
would be
year,
pretty,
2 is
pretty
fine,
appropriate.
yeah, but we're
Lines up
only
with
meeting 1 or 2 times a year, so then,
half the
it's-
meeting is spent
Yeah,
setting it. And it's just a bylaw change. I think we can make that.
Yeah,
at the
I
next
don't
meeting.
have any issue with that unless some of the council does. I mean, I'm happy to serve in whatever capacity I need to. I'm certainly interested in it. And I think 2-year terms coinciding with what we both have left and then going forward just makes it more expedient.
We'll present that change at the next URA meeting.
Which won't be next.
We should
week.
have one before the end of the year. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, having no other business before it, we are adjourned. Thank you.